Today we want to give you a little tool for the workplace. For the next time that you're in a conflict that doesn't seem to be going very well, it's a tool that some counselors have been known to use in therapy sessions, and it's called Relational Immediacy. This is where you invite someone to stop and reflect on what just happened relationally or emotionally in the middle of a conflict.
Yeah, so let me give you an example. I recently was having a conversation with a coworker and had observed an interaction between that employee and somebody else. And so I was coming to this person to say, hey, I noticed some things that went awry there, and I think we need to talk about how that conversation went with that coworker. And I noticed in his body language that he kind of crossed his arms and he kind of rolled his eyes a couple of times as I was talking to him. And so I used the tool of relational immediacy to say, hey, I noticed that your body language is kind of closing, and I just want to make sure, I want to have a conversation with you, but I don't want you to feel unsafe. Like none of us are perfect in conflict. Are you in a space where we could have a conversation about this right now? So I kind of called out what I was observing in his behavior and gave him an opportunity to say, yeah, I'm not ready to have this conversation, or I just totally agree with what you're saying. But at least it was kind of a way to start that part of the conversation than what we needed to get to.
So today we want to give you 3 steps to relational immediacy in the workplace if you want to try this in your next conflict. And the first step is to make observations, not judgments. Make sure that you're not pointing the finger at somebody or impugning their motives if you want to try to be relationally immediate in the middle of a conflict.
Yeah, so in that example that I gave, I just clearly stated an observation. I noticed that you're closing your arms. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. Are you feeling uncomfortable in this conversation right now? Because I don't want to do that. I just genuinely want to kind of go back over that conversation that I observed with another coworker. So it's making an observation. I'm not making a judgment. I'm not saying, hey, don't be defensive right now, or I can tell you're closed off to me. I just was making an observation like, hey, I can tell you seem a little uncomfortable. Your body language is closing. Are you okay? Can we continue with this conversation?
And then you're just inviting the other person to either agree with you or disagree with you. Maybe they don't see it the way you see it, but you're making the observation so that you can eventually move forward in productive conflict resolution.
Yeah, because it might be fair to say that maybe my coworker could say, yeah, I feel like you're coming at me awfully hard, or I feel like you're making accusations or something. And so then if I'm trying to be a healthy coworker, I need to be able to say, okay, I'm sorry, that's not what I'm trying to do. Let me try it again. Let me rephrase it in a way that might seem safer or less accusatory. But if the conversation is that the person doesn't agree and he's like, no, I'm not closed, it's fine, we can have this conversation, then I just have to kind of proceed with caution.
Yeah, so to be clear, there are 2 ways to proceed on to step number 3. It just depends on the other person's reaction. If they agree with your observation, then, like you said, Tracy, you can move forward and actually productively start thinking through solutions together. And if they disagree, if they say, no, I'm not being defensive, or I wasn't frustrated by that, then you need to, as the speaker, you need to make it safe again, or even maybe just take a break from the conflict altogether.
In that example that I gave with the coworker, my heart coming to that conversation was for his benefit, right? I want him to be the best leader he can be. So I observed something that was concerning and wasn't good. So my goal then, in the way I approach that, is I want to make sure that he knows that that's what my heart is, right? And so if he agrees, like, yes, I am a little bit defensive, that was a hard conversation for me, then I want to move towards solutions with him and say, okay, so how can I help you? How can I be supportive of you as you learn maybe some better communication skills with this person? If he didn't agree with my observations about him being defensive, then it might be good for me just to say, you know what, maybe we'll pick up this conversation tomorrow. Maybe you need some time to think about how that other conversation went. I want to think about how I want to approach that, and we'll just take a break and come back to it. This is just simply a tool to use in a moment that you feel like you're having a crucial conversation, a conversation that could be emotionally driven, to just say, hey, I want to make sure that you feel safe in having this conversation. I'm noticing some things behaviorally or in your nonverbals that's telling me that maybe you don't feel safe. How do we need to go about this so that it is safe? Because that conversation still has to happen. That example I gave, for the sake and the health of the organization, I needed this coworker to know that's not how you handle that. That's not how you speak to someone when you're frustrated by something. So the conversation had to happen, but I can't force that person to want to have the conversation in a healthy way. Again, this is where it gets complicated. Keep working at it. Don't give up on healthy conflict in your workplace.
So next time you have to have a hard conversation, try these 3 steps to relational immediacy.